Hi folks, thank you for joining. The Portal Connector is extremely proud to be a platinum sponsor of the very first DynamicsCon virtual conference. My name is Steve Webb. I'm the Vice President of Product Development at the Portal Connector. Today, I'll be going through a few slides that will cover what the Portal Connector is, where you can recognize value in introducing the Portal Connector to your organization, some of the key differences between Power App portals and the Portal Connector. Then we'll jump into a demo of a real-world scenario so you can experience why the Portal Connector is a go-to platform for Dynamics 365 portals. So let's get started. What is the Portal Connector? In summary, the Portal Connector is a platform that allows you to create exceptional interactive web experiences for your customers, vendors, members, or just general users. It does this by providing a rich tool set to interact with your business data that resides in your Dynamics CRM, CE, or CDS system. With deployments around the world in small, medium, and enterprise organizations, associations, professional sports, and governments, the Portal Connector is the leading alternative, or as some of our customers would say, the leader in Dynamics 365 portals. It's a low-code, no-code platform that has been from the very beginning 8 years ago, before being a citizen developer was cool. So it's not an afterthought. Not only is it drag and drop, point and click, but it's also a very robust development platform. If you're a developer, it can be customized to be extended using standard C# development, and you can use your familiar tool set, C#, JavaScript, jQuery, Angular, or any other tools you use as it's essentially just a .NET web application. So now that we have an idea of what the Portal Connector is, let's shift our focus to where your organization can find value in the Portal Connector. The first area is on the operational side. For operational value, it's typically a little harder to quantify, mainly because the Portal Connector could be used for many different portal types, like a customer support portal, or maybe an event management portal. A lot of associations use it for managing accreditations and the educational and certification requirements around accreditation. So let's dig a little deeper. If you don't already have a portal, then you'll likely see immediate gains in how it facilitates and reducing resources workloads, primarily by offloading clerical and basic process work to your users. In today's world, people expect some sort of web portal to interact with your business. Creating a portal will allow you in many cases to service your customers faster and more efficiently, translating into real savings. Something that is generally overlooked but provides significant value is your business data accuracy and integrity. A portal can be configured to control the information and how it's being inserted, updated into your business systems. It provides a consistent and structured approach to maintaining your data. Again, to try and quantify operational value, we can look at the following stats. SuperOffice.com did some analysis based on standard mechanisms for customers to reach out to an organization. Based on an average interaction requiring manual intervention, it could range anywhere from $2.50 to $12 per touch point. In comparison, a self-service portal could cost well under $1 per interaction. More importantly, staying competitive in the market is where you could really recognize value. A self-service portal reduces response time and allows you to interact with your customers virtually instantaneous. If you don't take care of your customers, somebody else will. A portal will also provide convenience to your customer. We all live in a busy world with billions of connected devices at the fingertips of every consumer. Convenience is a must. So much so that a recent PwC survey found that the level of importance for efficiency and convenience was rated at greater than 75% to justify paying more for the same product or service elsewhere. To add to that, customer experience, or CX, is so significant that consumers look for it and expect it. As shown here, 73% surveyed point to customer experience as an important factor in their purchasing decisions. An even scarier stat from PwC is this. 32% surveyed say they will walk away from a brand they love after just one bad experience. 32%. Think about that. I couldn't imagine the percentage for two bad experiences, which leads us to this. Customer retention and acquisition. I know what some of you are thinking. Hey, I prefer a more personal experience. But wouldn't you rather have choices? Believe it or not, most people prefer to take care of business themselves. A survey from Zendesk found 67% of respondents prefer self-service over speaking to a company representative, and the number is only growing. And to add to that, 91% surveyed say they would use an online knowledge base if it were available and tailored to their needs. But when we're talking about customer retention, the following statistic speaks volumes. From the Harvard Business Review, they found that increasing customer retention rates by 5% increases profits by 25 to 95%. On the pessimistic side, if you could really think of a 25% increase in profit as negative, how can you not afford to keep your customers happy? Just a 5% increase. It's pretty clear the value is there, but why the portal connector? Let's talk a little bit about what sets us apart. I already mentioned that the portal connector is drag and drop, point and click, but it is significant for citizen developers to be able to maintain and configure new features. One of our most significant differences between the portal connector and Power App portals is that we support all versions of Dynamics CRM 365 and CDS, from CRM 2011, 2013, 2016, 365, both on-premise and in the cloud. Believe it or not, there are organizations still out there on CRM 2011. There's likely someone watching this right now on one of those versions. Don't worry, there's no shame in that. We've all been there. To let you in on a little secret, you can still use the portal connector, even if you're 2 years into planning your migration to 365. The portal connector migrates seamlessly from 2011 all the way up to 365, mainly because it only consists of a whopping 6 custom entities. We also discussed a little bit about the customization capabilities of the portal connector. Huge advantage, huge! As much as Microsoft is part of our technology ecosystem, there are usually a lot of moving parts. Being able to customize and integrate using standard development practices and tools is a win for any organization needing to accomplish complex tasks. If you haven't noticed by now, the portal connector focuses on being flexible, and it doesn't stop with hosting options. The portal connector can be hosted anywhere, in an Azure app service, infrastructure, at Amazon, GoDaddy if you like, or even within your own on-premise infrastructure. Complete flexibility. The portal connector is also an enterprise content management system. It's actually built on a content management system. So you get all those features from persona tracking and personalization, and the ability to theme and style every component to intuitive content modules. Finally, the most significant difference is our licensing model. The portal connector is perpetually licensed, which means when you buy it, you own it. No additional fees, one price. I know, hard to believe. Unlike Power App portals, where it's licensed by logins, meaning the more your users use the portal, the more you pay. This causes issues as traffic to a portal can tend to be unpredictable, which means your operational costs are unpredictable. As someone responsible for a P&L, that's not something I feel comfortable with. The portal connector is licensed by production domain. So if you have a portal domain, that's a license, so on and so on. Finally, before we jump into a demo, the last point is that our license comes with unlimited non-production domains. This allows you to have dev, UAT, QA, staging environments without additional licensing fees. Pretty sweet deal. For a more in-depth comparison of the Portal Connector and Power App portals, you can visit the page listed here on this slide. All right, into the fun stuff. So now that what I have prepared for you today is a demo environment we have here at the Portal Connector. It's a typical portal, and I will start by maybe taking you through the basics of it. From there, we'll jump into a configuration side and build out a very basic support ticket process, and then we can dress it up a little bit. So let's get to it. So now that we're into the demo, the first thing we want to do before I can actually start walking you through it is actually set up a user. So I'm going to jump into my CRM system, and I have this user here. Her name is Jen, and you can see that she's pretty active, lots of new cases. Her company is Coho Winery. So I'm going to provide her access to the portal. And again, this is where those 6 entities come into play. All we use Dynamics for is to send and retrieve data and manage users. So I'm going to go into my Manage Portal Roles, and I'm going to select which portal they're going to have access to. And then I'm going to create a user account. So let's save that. I should probably give her a role as well. So I'm going to set her as just a general user. There we go. And let's close that. So now that she has access to the portal, let's take a look to see what kind of experience she sees. So on the portal side of things, just a basic landing page, but we can see across the top that right now, as an anonymous user, she has access to knowledge base articles, forums, and then of course a place to log in. So let's log Jen in. You'll notice right away that once she logs in, she now has access to a few other items up top: support, profile, order history. The support actually doesn't have any content just yet. So that's the area that we're going to build out a little bit. But Jen can go in there and take a look at her personal profile. And again, all of this data is direct real-time data from your Dynamics system or CDS. So there's Jen's information there. Jen can go in, take a look at her company profile. Again, her company is Coho Winery. So there is the account information there. She can also take a look at all of the other contacts that are related to that account and even edit those contacts. So there's Craig's record there. Jen has access to her order history, so she can go in and maybe take a look at all the orders that she might have in your system. All the order details. She can request changes and report problems, or maybe go back and view the rest of her orders. She also has access to her invoices. That's my favorite part, because you could also integrate some type of a payment into the invoice and actually increase how fast those payments come through to your organization. And there's our invoice details as well. Access to the knowledge base articles. So it's a pretty standard support portal with some order stuff mixed in there. And of course, she can search those articles as well, and then actually view the details. And of course, this is being fed directly from Dynamics as well. And then we also have some forum support in there also, if you want to get interactive and allow users to communicate with each other, or maybe hopefully solve problems on their own. So now that we have the basics down, let's jump into the administrative side. And we'll start building out that support experience. So as I said, we're going to start with something really basic, and then what we're going to do is kind of get really creative with it, with some of the stuff that we have going on. So the first thing I want to do is I would probably want to create some pages. So if I go into my pages section here, and of course you can see that it is a content management system. We have some e-commerce stuff in there, some design stuff, a whole bunch of admin stuff, marketing. We also have the ability to have all of this pre-built content, and we can even actually create our own content types. So if you wanted something that was maybe a testimonial section, you could build these out using point and click as well. So inside the pages, you can see that it kind of falls in line with our navigation structure. We had the portal element, the support node, the profile node, the order history node. What we're interested in building out is this support section. So the first thing I want to do is maybe describe a little bit about what I'm going to build. When we hit the dashboard, the first thing we're going to do is maybe take a look at all of the support cases that I have open. From there, we want to be able to drive into it, maybe create a new support case or edit a support case that's already existing. So to do that, we have to create a couple pages. So what I'm going to do is just create a page underneath this support node. So I'm going to create a child page. And we'll call this add case. I don't necessarily want to show this in navigation because we're going to deep link this. So I'm going to uncheck this here, and I'm going to just click on continue. Now it's going to allow me to select a template. And of course, these templates, you can see that it could be Bootstrap, they could be master pages, they could be just, standard templates. It could be another framework out there. It's completely flexible. What I'm going to select is one that we already have pre-configured, and that would be our TPC trial inner template. So I'm going to select that template. So here we are. This is our page editor, and you can see that we have a bunch of different containers and a whole bunch of widgets down the side here. We're not going to do much with this just yet. I just needed to create that page so I have somewhere to put a form afterwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on publish here, and I'm going to bounce back, and I'm going to create another page, and we'll call this one edit case. So there's our new page. So the same process, and just going to create a child page, and we'll call this one edit case. Now you don't necessarily need two pages. You could have it all on one page, but I know from support tickets, when you create a new support ticket, a lot of times you're asking for a title, maybe a description of that case. But when people actually go into edit tickets, it's pretty important not to change those default or those base field and information that was initially entered. We'll give them other options to customize that. So let's go, I'm not going to show that in navigation. I'm going to, same process, just select my same template here. Okay, so now I'm going to just publish this really quick. And now I'm going to jump out of this page. So now that we have a couple of pages stubbed out, let's jump into our dashboard page, and we'll get an active list of support cases up on it. So I'll jump into my dashboard. So again, the same look and feel and structure, and you can see down the side we have all of our portal connector widgets. Those are pretty much any widget that interacts with Dynamics data. So if you scroll down, you'll also see a whole bunch of content widgets, the blogs, the cards, the, forums, so on and so on. Navigation widgets, scripts and styles, if you have a little bit of scripting capability, logins, users, classifications, a whole load of widgets because it is an enterprise level content management system. So I think what we want to do is maybe add a title to the page. So I'm going to go into my, take one of my content widgets here. I'm just going to drop it inside one of those containers. And we'll give this maybe dashboard because that's what it's going to be eventually. And let's make that a header and save that. So here's my dashboard. The next element we want to add is maybe a list or a grid of support cases. So this is where we start using some of these portal connector elements. And what we want to use is just one of these grids. I'm just going to drag it on and drop it in place there, and then click on edit to customize it. So in here, that's why we actually created those stub pages, because we want to be able to provide an area for them to add records or edit records. So by checking this checkbox, it's going to ask me, do I want to open that in a different page or maybe a pop-up? For now, we're going to just set the different page, and we're going to select one of those pages that we had stubbed out. So if I go into my portal and I go into my support node and select that add case. And the same goes for the editing. Now that we have those configured, what we want to do is define what data people are actually going to see inside of that grid. So I'm going to flip over to my data tab, and it's basically running off of Fetch XML. Fetch XML is the standard or default query language that Dynamics uses. It's XML based, hence the name. But it's really the same thing that advanced binds use. You can even actually export it right from Dynamics and paste it right inside. So what I'm going to do is actually select my case entity, and you see right away that actually loads up that fetch XML from Dynamics. But looking at that, you know, maybe it's showing the origin of the case. Maybe we don't want to show that to the end user. So I can also go into my builder and modify that that query. So this is our fetch XML builder, and it takes it from being that gobbledygook of XML to a point and click experiment again. So if I want to remove that field, I will just simply remove that field and click on save and close. So you don't even need to know fetch XML. You just need to know the fields that you want to show a customer. So on top of that, what we also want to do is be able to filter that by the contact, because portal users, doesn't matter which portal platform you're using, they're actually contacts inside of Dynamics. So this particular query will actually return every single case inside your Dynamics system, including cases that belong to other people. So what we want to do is filter this. So I'm going to actually just grab some filtering right from my list of fetch XML, just to save you the trouble of me actually going in there, watching me go in there and actually configure it all out. But you can see here what I'm doing is I'm saying for anyone that is a primary contact for the contact, or customer is the contact, or the customer ID is the account, or the responsible contact is the contact. So those areas here, and especially with those two little @ symbols, they're very special properties. Well, they're actually variables. What we have to do is actually define what these variables actually contain. So that brings us to the next step on the filter side of things. So if I specify the @account @, I can actually tell it what that actually is in the system. So I'm going to say for the logged in user, it's the parent customer ID of the logged in user. So when I log in, my parent account could be completely different from someone else's, but it's smart enough to recognize which parent account is associated to which user. And then also I want to specify the contact. And you can see down here that we can actually use session variables if you're a developer, query string parameters. Then we have those preset ones, the user ID, price list, customer ID, and contact. And again, that's the logged in contact. So we're going to select that. On the settings tab, a whole bunch of grid functionality. So paging, grouping, sorting, filtering, all of that can be enabled or disabled depending on what you want to use it for. And then of course on the columns, if you wanted to fine tune that, you can actually go in there and customize the HTML, the presentation of those columns. So I'm going to click on save here, and I'm going to publish this. And then what we're going to do is just maybe just take a look to see what that looks like on our portal. So again, I'm logged in as Jen. So there's our dashboard, and there's all those cases with those 3 columns that we had created. So she has a lot of cases, 37. So now if I wanted to add a new case, I can click on this add button. But wait, we haven't created a form for it yet. So that's going to be the next step. So you can see it's just taking us to a blank page. So let's jump back over to this grid. And now let's go into our administrative area again and actually create a form that the user can interact with. So to create forms, we go into this content tab. Inside there, you'll see that form area, and you'll notice virtually right away that it's pretty much the same experience that you would find on the page side of things. So we're going to create a form, and we're going to call this, let's go with add case. Pretty intuitive. Now I'm back into my designer. So what you see here is basically the same thing as the page designer, where we have containers. Down the side, we have a list of widgets, and then we have our list of our portal connector widgets. So these are all connected, to Dynamics. They're Dynamics aware, you could say. So I'm going to build out a form here. What's nice about this is what I'm going to do is actually change the layout. So instead of having just one column, I'm going to go over to my layout side of things and open up my grid widgets. Well, first thing I'm going to do is actually drop one of these form layouts in there just to let the form know it's a Dynamics form. And then I'm going to actually put in maybe some, let's go with this one here. I'm going to build out the structure of my form. Let's go with that one. And let's go with another one there. So you can see you can get kind of dynamic. You can actually even take these and drop them inside of each other if you wanted to. So you could create some pretty unique experiences in that sense. Flipping back to my content, there's our containers. The first thing I want to do is define what type of data this form is going to be interacting with. So that's where we use this special widget here. It's the form configuration widget. I'm just going to drop it inside of there. Let's move my submit button down below. I'm going to click on edit. So from here, all I have to do is just simply tell it what type of form is it. So it's going to be a case form, and I'm going to click on save. And then now I can use all of these fields down the side to create my form. So when we're talking about cases, probably one of the first things you want is a case title. So that's going to be a text field. Let me just configure that really quick. Because it knows it's working with the entity and we know it's a text field, it's actually going to show us all of the fields that can be text-based. So I can select my case title, and maybe I'll customize that just to say title. And I'm going to make that required. So if someone tries to submit this form without a title, it's going to prompt them, highlight the field, and say, hey, wait a second, this is required. From there, I can also change the appearance of it. So if I want to add a tooltip or maybe the input mode, multi-line, password, so on and so on. For this purpose, we probably just want it text. Under the basic side of things, I can also even change the template. So if I wanted to do custom HTML, every single widget in the system, you can actually create custom HTML and change the presentation of that field. We're going to just keep it the default for now. I'm going to click on save, and there's our title field. So I'm just going to quickly go through and add some fields. The next one's going to be a pick list. Let's go for subject, and then maybe a pick list for priority, and then a pick list for case type. So I'm going to quickly just customize these. So let's go with subject. Actually, you know what? I think subject might actually be a lookup. So let's modify that in a second. Let's start with priority. And then we can go into the case type. Let's just delete this one here and put a lookup in there for subject. So again, a lookup is a data widget. So you will have that data tab there. If I select my subject here, there it is. And we don't want to be able to add records or edit records in this particular instance, but it is an option. So if I go to my data side of things, it already populated with what usually is what you want, the actual ID of it, and then the default text field that's defined inside of Dynamics. So this is good to go. So let's do that. And then I guess, you know what, we're going to need a description field. So let's drop that down here. And let's edit that. And select my description. Let's change the appearance of this a little bit. Let's make this a multi-line box. Okay. So there it is there. Now, sometimes when you're creating forms and sometimes when you have those experiences online, you want to be able to submit other information to Dynamics without the user actually entering it. So that's why we have this special field called a static value field. So what that allows us to do is actually send information back to Dynamics without the user realizing we're sending it. So I'm going to drop a couple of these on here because there's a few key points that we need. So we're going to need maybe the origin field, so where that's coming from. We're going to need one for the customer, so we can behind the scenes set the customer, and then maybe the responsible contact as well. So let's drop that in there. And we'll start configuring these. Now keep in mind, these are hidden fields. The customer won't see these. So I'm going to select, the first one would be the case origin field. And let's go with, there it is. And what we want to do is actually say, this is coming from the web. So we know where these cases are originating. Great for analytics. So I'm going to save that. And then let's take the customer. There it is there. And what we want to do here is actually pre-populate it with the logged in user's contact ID. So that's what the customer is going to be set as in that case. And then finally, the responsible contact. There it is there. And we're going to set that as the contact as well. Let's save that. And let's publish this. So that's our first form, the case form, the add case form. What we're going to do is actually create another one for the edit case form. So the quickest way to do that is to take this case form and just go over here to actions and say duplicate. Give it a new name, edit case, and then go to edit those fields. So on the edit case, you likely don't want the user to be changing those fields that they have already entered. So like the text field. So I'm just going to quickly go in there, click on edit, and I'm going to mark them as read only. And I'm going to do that for all of these fields really quick. Okay, so all those read-only fields are set, but what happens if the user needs to actually add more information? Well, in that particular case, you probably want to use something like the notes field. So I'm going to take one of these notes and just drag it in here. And there's nothing I have to edit here. I just want to open this up so you can take a look at it. So on the notes side of things, maybe we call this notes and attachments. And then we allow creating notes, editing notes. We don't want them to delete them, but we want them to be able to download the attachments and maybe upload attachments. On the appearance side, that's pretty good. Validation side, we're good there. And we'll just click on save here. So there's our notes. Let's publish this here. So now that we have the two forms created, all we have to do is actually add those to the pages. So if I jump back into my pages section, and I edit my add case page. And over on the Portal Connector side, we have the TPC Form Manager. That's what we want to use to display a form. So I'm going to drop that in there. I'm just going to select a form. I'm going to take that Add Case form and then click on Save. And let's publish this. Now the same thing for the edit page. And this time we want to take that edit form instead. So I'm going to take that TPC Form Manager, drag it on. Click on Save. And of course, I could give it a title, the page, but we're going to just try to save a little bit of time here. Click on Publish. Now let's take a look to see what that looks like. So if I jump over to my dashboard here, and I'm going to just refresh this really quick. So now if I want to add a case, when I click on this, it's actually going to bring up that add case form. So there's my new form. You have all my subjects loaded in there. We have the case type loaded in there, and I can actually create a new form. If I wanted to edit one, let's take one of these ones here, then you can see that the experience is going to be slightly different. We're going to have a lot of read-only information. So there it is, read-only. That's a pretty descriptive description. But if I wanted to, I can even add a new note. So if I, add the title and the content, and that's going to attach it right to that support case. There it is. We got a grid, a couple forms. Problem is that we talked a lot about customer experience. We talked a lot about user experience in general. This isn't very friendly. So what we're going to do now is actually dress this up a little bit. I can show you how easy it is to really customize different elements of the Portal Connector. So what we're going to do is first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump back here, and we're going to start with this dashboard. Dashboard's not much of a dashboard if it's just a grid. So I'm going to, first of all, let's get rid of this grid. Grids are great for displaying data, but not necessarily the best for making things really interactive and awesome looking. So let's, the first thing I want to do is just maybe drag a couple layouts in there. Take one of my grids here like this, and let's go with maybe a 4x8. There we go. Go back to my content. Oh, you know what? Let's go like this here. Let's add these tabs here too. What I'm going to do is actually, instead of having it where it's just cases, I'm going to actually have open cases, closed cases, follow-up required, and create case. And actually, you know what? I don't even need that. You know what? Let's keep it there. That's good. So inside there, we have open cases, closed cases, follow-up, and create case. We have a couple other boxes down here. So let's build these in. Instead of using the grid widget this time, what we're going to use is this list view widget. What the list view widget allows us to do is define custom HTML to interact with that data. So if I click on edit here, it has pretty much the same type of properties as a grid in allowing to add records or to edit records. But what we're going to do is make this a pop-up and make this one a pop-up. And let's select those pages. Go. And then also, what we're going to do is we're going to change the template. So we have a preset template here that we already have. And all that does is just maybe customize the look and feel a little bit. And then we're also going to define the data for this. So we're going to be working with cases. So very similar to the grid, but now that we're into more of a customized view of it. So, and I have some fetch already predefined here just to keep things simple. There we go. I'm going to define my filters. Click on save. And then what I'm going to do is work on my, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually duplicate this one. And we're going to put this inside my closed cases. Let's edit this. In this particular one, we don't want them to be able to add a closed case. So let's uncheck that one. Okay. On the data side, what we want to do is just flip this little bit here from active to inactive. Click on save. Oh, you know what? What we should do is, because it's opening up in a pop-up window, it's going to open up in just a regular pop-up window that's a square floating in the middle of the screen. So let's change this so it actually goes full screen. To do that, I'm going to go into my advanced settings. So with these, what we call as designers, the properties that you see when you first open it up, those are the most commonly used properties. But there's a tremendous number of other properties that you can configure as well, and you can see them all here. For the most part, most people don't use them, but in this particular case, we're going to maximize that pop-up window. So set that to true. Let's click on save. Go back to my open cases, and I'm going to set these ones to maximized as well. True. Let's click on save. And then finally, we have this, the required for follow-up. And what I'm going to do is actually just, let's take another copy of this one here. And pop that inside there. And click on edit. And I have some other special fetch already defined here. Basically just showing anything that hasn't been followed up in over a year. So I'm going to copy that. We already have all of this configured. So if I go into my data here, and let's go in here, Control A, paste that in there. And actually, you know what? I don't want them to be able to add a case from this tab either. So I'm going to actually uncheck that one. We have our filters in place. We have our data in place. Let's click on save here. And then finally, to really make this dynamic, we're going to actually throw a form on here as well. That way they're not bouncing back and forth. They can actually access this and create cases right here. Add a case. Click on save. There we go. So now we have all of those configured. Okay. But we have two other columns down here. You know what's great about dashboards? It's charts. So let's add a couple of charts to this. Let's start with the first one here. And what we can do is actually pull in charts from Dynamics and then filter them after the fact. So I'm going to open up my case charts here. I'm going to select one. Maybe cases by status. That's a good one. I'm going to load that, and you can see it has it already pre-configured. If you wanted to, you can actually go in there and define your own fetch XML, define your own chart settings, so on and so on. So this one here, we're going to actually filter. So I'm going to call this one My, and I'm going to change the chart theme so we can make it a little bit more customized. And I already have some colors already picked out there. And then on my data side, I have to filter this. So just taking another shortcut here, all I'm going to do is actually just copy my filters that are already in place. And then just plop those inside there. There we go. On the filter side, again, define my account, my contact, and click on save. Okay, so that's one chart. Now let's take another chart here. Actually, you know what? What kind of chart do we actually have that configured as? Let's take a look. Okay, so it's a column chart. That's fine. And let's go in here and define another one. Maybe this one could be cases by type or something. So let's go with cases by type. Right there. Let's load that. And again, it already configured it. Oh, right now it's set as a pie chart. That's really not one I'm super keen on. So I'm going to switch this to a column as well. That's better. On my appearance side, again, I'm going to use, I could use any of these predefined style sets, but I'm going to actually go to my custom one again. And let's go by cases by type and change my title of the actual chart there. Go to my data. And again, I'm going to just plop my filters in there and define them. And here we go. So there we go. Just create a new custom view here. Let's take a look at how this looks. Here, go back into my dashboard. Ooh, much nicer. You know what I need? I think I need some paging in here because that scroll's kind of long. So I'm gonna add some paging to that. Oh, there is some paging. I think it's just our items are this is showing too many items, 100 at a time. But then we also have these charts here. They seem kind of out of place because they don't actually have that shadow. So we can touch that up a little bit as well. But let's shorten this up a little bit. So I'm going to jump back into my page. You can see that it's, you know, with just a couple of configurations, you can really change how something looks and feels and functions. So on my paging side of things, so we have the enable paging. I think we actually have to go into the advanced settings for that page size. So let's go into the advanced model. And where is that page size? It's not, there it is. So into my list view setting, there it is. So let's make this maybe 9. So show 9 per page. Let's click on save there. And we're just going to change these ones really quick as well. My list view settings. And we'll go 9 with that one as well. Okay, and then one more. So of course, all of this is actually documented on our site. And let me just pop that open one more time. What's really great about these widgets is that if you have any trouble configuring it, there's this little help icon right here. And what that'll do is it'll actually take you off to our website, kind of explaining actually how you can configure it and all the different properties that you can configure. So there is and as well as the JavaScript API if you want to interact with it with Java, with JavaScript. So it's a pretty handy resource when you're configuring things, especially for the first time. So I'm gonna click on save here, and then you know what? Let's spruce these charts up a little bit more. I'm gonna add maybe a couple styles to it. It is Bootstrap, so let's go down here under my more options, and let's add some classes to it. So let's go with maybe a card shadow MT. It's already there because of course it is a demo. So let's save that. And the same thing for this one here. let's publish that, and let's take a look at that experience here. So we'll go back here. Let's just refresh this. Okay, so 9 cases, and then down to my charts. That's much better. Some spacing, some shadows, some, a little bit of a card. That's awesome. Looks good. Our cases here, if I want to edit one of those, it's going to open up in a full screen pop-up. Oh, but look, we have all this menu structure and stuff in there. I think that might be our last modification. So let's go in there and change that. So back to my pages. Because we had that going to a page before, now it's a pop-up, what we want to do is actually change the template of this. So we want to remove all that menu structure and logos and all that other good stuff. So if I want to change the template after the fact, I can go into my layout side and I select another template. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to select a blank one here. That one there is good. Let's click on done. And there's my form. You can see we don't have any of that structure anymore. Let's publish this. And we'll do the same thing for the edit case. Okay, so back into here, let's just do a quick refresh. So now when I go to edit a case, it's going to open up that full page view. There we go. Edit case, looking good. And actually, this one here actually has some notes attached to it, which is pretty awesome. And then, of course, with the ad, we can click on the ad record, and it opens up in a pop-up window as well. So it's a little bit nicer experience. I prefer the full screen pop-up versus one that's just kind of floating in the middle of the screen. But if you want the floating one, you could do that as well. The closed cases, anything that's required for follow-up. And of course, we can create a case right here in line as well without even leaving the page. So I think that's pretty good. We created a pretty decent, experience there. We could continue on with that. We can start getting into, diverting cases and, pushing them to knowledge articles and all that other really cool stuff. But that might take a little more time for a 50-minute session. So you can see just with a few point and click and drag and drops, you can get pretty creative in what you actually use the Portal Connector for. Of course, we picked support because it's pretty popular, but you could have that event management or membership management or any type of portal experience. It all comes down to what you need for your organization. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. And again, it was extremely excited to have the opportunity to be a platinum sponsor for the DynamicsCon virtual conference. And if you would like more information about the Portal Connector, feel free to reach out to us directly. You can visit our website, www.portalconnector.com, or reach out to us from the DynamicsCon sponsor advertisements. Thank you.